What's going on, everybody? It's DJ Sketch here, and I'm back with another video, and this time we're going to review the 2017 reiteration of the game Prey. And this one's actually, so far, I've actually just about gotten to the end of it. So I've played it for roughly, well, actually I played it the entire weekend, like, not even gonna lie. But as far as actual mainline quest gameplay, I'm about little more than 13 hours in and coming up on the final hours of the game, so I figured I've seen enough to talk about it and give anybody that might be on the fence about it a pretty good depiction on what they might be getting themselves into should they choose to accept the journey. So basically, the original that came out in 2006, it's crazy, it's been 11 years already, and that was another very good game, also a very underrated game because not many people played it. I think that's why it's so cheap nowadays. But the only things that really are similar between the two, besides the name, is you have a wrench in both and you're in space in both. But that's pretty much what the similarity's in. But with this new version that Arcane Studios, along with Bethesda, put out, it's the styles are, you can kind of tell they've taken elements from a few different games that have all proven to work out pretty well. The ones I noticed the most, obviously, are Half-Life, Bioshock, like the Bioshock one, like it's kind of hard to deny, and also Deus Ex, just by the approach of how you can do the missions in the game, because that's the one thing that this game really does well. You can pretty much do everything in the game how you want to an extent. For the most part, there's not just one single way to complete an objective. You can either do it the brute force way, you could do it the stealth way, you could do it the completely use your environmental elements way. Like, the possibilities are actually quite plentiful, which is one thing I can definitely say is very cool about this game, and I already can't recommend enough. Like, if you're curious about this game, definitely give it a try, especially even if you haven't played the original, since there's really no correlation between the two. I'd say give it a shot, just because it's actually pretty interesting, and I would think most people would probably get into it, even regardless of what genre game you might be looking for. And also just want to talk about a couple of the base things in the game as well. First, we'll talk about the skill tree and the neuromod system. So let's talk about the neuromod system. So essentially, this is the very familiar skill tree you've seen in a lot of other games, especially like Bioshock or any of the other RPG-esque games that you've seen from Bethesda Publishing before. So that shouldn't be anything strange to any newcomer or even the seasoned vet, because essentially you have your setup. It's also very similar to Resident Evil 4 in the way that the briefcase system worked. You can either fit everything in to a certain way, or you can just burn things as you go along, dismantle them, drop them, etc., etc. It's a very familiar thing you've seen before. But the thing with this that actually makes it a little bit more interesting is that along with the inventory and your skill sets, you'll have it broken down into your human abilities and your Typhon abilities, which are the enemies that you're encountering throughout the game. And as you go along, you can scan their abilities to unlock the Typhon abilities as you go along. So you have to scan different types to get different abilities. And also, this should be a very familiar concept to anybody who's played similar games like this before too. This is where the Deus Ex and Bioshock influences come in a bit, because different plasmids have different abilities, different vigors. You know the deal. And also, along with the scanner, it also will open up more things, and also it'll scan your surroundings, so it also will let you know, sometimes depending on what chipsets and modifications you put on, what changes are around you, and also allow you to have different abilities that will either help or hinder some battles, but also help you in other aspects, as far as like seeing, not so much like seeing routes as you would have seen in the original Prey. So that's where some things differ, but there's things that definitely do pay homage to the original, and things that are very, very different, which I can also really appreciate. And along with the inventory abilities here, there's also a really high emphasis on recycling and fabricating materials, which is something that you're going to need to do quite a bit, because there will be times where you'll have no ammo. But also, the focus really isn't really gunplay in this game, even though you would think that since it's a first-person shooter, but gunplay is not really the main focus. But recycling items, but picking up things off of like also dead cosmonauts, or also off the other enemies that you kill, will definitely help you, because once you find fabrication machines, you can build ammo, build medkits, more psi hypos. Again, this should be fairly familiar, so you know the deal. But these things will will definitely help you, and also will make the game more manageable, because it does definitely ramp up as far as difficulty, especially after the first couple of missions. It gets pretty difficult at parts, but also trial and error is going to be a very large part of the gameplay. I'll go ahead and tell you that much now. And really, I'll just go ahead and get to the meat of this. Is it worth picking up? Especially compared to the original, I'd absolutely say yes, because this actually is, as far as the games that have come out so far this year, I know it's only May, and there's a lot more things that are coming out, of course, but this one is actually really interesting, especially if you're a fan of the original. The original game really didn't get like enough attention. That's why like it went so under the radar, and it was actually a really competent game and actually had a lot of really interesting elements. And so does this one. The reiteration of Prey that's out now it's a really solid game. Like of course it has its issues, like the control itself. It might feel clunky to some people, but at the same time, if you play games similar to this where you don't have aim down sight features and things like that, then it's really not going to feel that strange. It's very old school in the control sense, if you guys can kind of get what I'm saying on that one. But still, it's serviceable and it's manageable, so it's something you can definitely use. So it might take getting used to for some people, but it's definitely possible. You just have to just stick with it for a bit, because the game does pick up. It's exciting. It's actually, as far as like, it's a very decent like survival horror game. Honestly, it's like compared to this and Resident Evil 7, they're honestly right on this. They're on the same street. You know, both genuinely scary. There are moments that'll definitely keep you guessing, and also you can brute force it, but just trying to run and gun through this game, I definitely wouldn't suggest it. Like, even at your peak and you have like tons of ammo, there's still many situations where you'll run into a room like trying to like go Rambo and it will not end up well, because typically like these things will rush you, especially the bigger types, and especially when the bigger types and the smaller types are in the same room, you got a recipe for a bad time. But all in all, like, this is a really good game. I would say if I had to give it a number, I give it a easy 8.5 out of 10. This is something I would definitely suggest picking up. If you don't want to shell out $60 right off the rip, I can understand that, but even still, like, once it's like it was on sale, I would suggest picking it up even more. But especially for anyone that likes survival horror games or open world games to an extent, or sandbox games, pardon me. This is like also a really cool sandbox game, because even just the base game itself, like, I've still clocked about almost 14 hours and I still haven't done everything. I'm not even close, and I'm just now about 2 hours from the ending of the first playthrough for me. So this is something definitely I couldn't recommend enough. Pick it up, give it a shot, tell me what you think. So if you found this video helpful, or if it helped make or break your decision, let me know, drop it down in the comments. And until then, I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy.
Because they can't do otherwise. You know what we discovered? They lack mirror neurons. All their wonderful abilities, there's one thing we can do that they can't. Empathize with the suffering of another living creature.